Or I should say, as long as it doesn't break this uptrend on the shorter term, I'm not turning bearish. I'm looking at this with eyes open, fully enjoying every single part of it. Because even though throughout these down periods it was kind of awful, perhaps, it's theoretically speaking just been up since the middle of November, so about the last month. And looking back at it, it's nice that we had a little red candle in the midst over on the weekly, but for the most part, it's just been up. And again, I still expect Bitcoin to make some higher heights, even on the pretty short term. So having said that, what have I been saying about XRP? Well, I've been saying for the most part that if you're selling at these levels, you're doing yourself a disservice, in my opinion. Why? Well, because even though we don't know exactly where things are going to be at the end of the year, if we're making an educated guess, well then, since we're not breaking this Bitcoin trend line, we're basically expecting things to go up for the Bitcoin side. We still have our target at about $120,000 per Bitcoin on the short term, and we know the overall trend is basically upwards with potentially a couple of weeks of negative, a couple of slips and falls, but again, those we'll see the moment that we break below this trend line right here. So as long as we don't, we generally speaking expect XRP and coins akin also to continue upwards, because every single time we put up some negative ideas, XRP just bounces right back up and acts like none of that ever even happened. And there it comes with the age-old, actually I guess you should say like 2-week-old theory of no, we've only ever had one green month with a crazy red month followed. I'm going to tell you right now, from the way it looks right now as we speak, this is going to be the first time that XRP records a crazy green month with another crazy green month right after. Again, unless Bitcoin breaks through, starts falling down, because again guys, if we keep looking back at it right now, XRP versus Bitcoin, this is XRP denominated in Bitcoin, has done well, sure, right? It's up a few 100% probably in the last month or so. But the majority of the gains are still to come. And even though we don't know where exactly at the end of the year things will be, we know the general trend and how that is going to look. And I think that is way more important because historically Q4, so the last 3 months of the year, are always the best. Now, usually, again, looking at these numbers, right? October and November are the best months, but generally December is still a positive month. And you got to remember one more thing. Usually altcoins do really, really well after Bitcoin has. So when you're looking at these numbers thinking, hey, but the median is slightly, I would say negative here. Well, that is actually quite a good thing for our alts because usually after a massive Bitcoin pump, which we have seen on the October and November months, we get Bitcoin slowing down, but the altcoins taking over. And I think another good example is that in Q4 of 2021, Bitcoin hit about 5% up, whereas Ethereum/altcoins were up a significant amount more, in this case 4 times as much. So if I do not exactly know where we're going to be by Christmas, why make a video at all? Well, it's generally to explain to people that it's not too much about where it's going to be on Christmas. But I get the comments so often, and even though I've addressed it in many streams, that if you're looking at it so short-sightedly, it's going to be quite difficult to turn a profit because you're thinking, oh, 2 weeks, that's it. 2 weeks, that's it. Or 3 weeks in this case, that's it. Well, the difficult part there becomes, what if it doesn't happen exactly according to your plan, or it takes a slight dip around Christmas time because people want to sell for gifts, or they don't want to be stressed around the end of the year as the year switches, or they want to quickly sell for tax purposes, and then everything starts going crazy. For example, right after February, you were so focused on the December, Christmas time or end of the year time that all of a sudden now you wasted crazy gains by being very short-sighted. And again, a lot of people do not understand this is a multi-month game, and that if there's a crazy dip or a crazy price drop, it tends to be a nice thing. It tends to be a nice thing based on the idea that it's going to be a multi-month run and the general direction is upwards, but nobody knows what's going to happen in this slight bit of time. That's why, for example, I drew in here a little bit of up, a little bit of down before going back up. It's not because this is generally what's going to happen. I'm just saying, well, it could very well be that by, for example, the end of the month, we see a slight downturn for Bitcoin, which ultimately will also show the same fate for altcoins. Again, probably, unless we're far enough into the alt season path, I would say right now, we're not even halfway throughout an altcoin season yet. Even though altcoins are generally outperforming Bitcoin, and generally whenever you refresh CoinMarketCap, you see plus 50% on a lot of alts, which I have often denominated as the altcoin season. It's not quote unquote that crazy yet, but more importantly, what we are seeing, an interesting characteristic of alt season, is that whenever Bitcoin goes down, alts don't necessarily do it that much. Bitcoin went from 104 to like 91,000 in a snap, as you guys remember, and the alts didn't really suffer at all. That is an interesting part as to why I'm thinking, we might be further along in this cycle than you would expect us to be right now. But on an opposite side, I think with this being the craziest run yet in terms of institutional adoption, I think many ETFs will still be applied for throughout the next few weeks. From that perspective, I'm thinking if Bitcoin can really go towards maybe 280,000, let's put up a number right there, then indeed we're seeing some crazy shenanigans, sure. But as Bitcoin goes and prepares for another run, maybe on the short term, let's say for example again, right? On the short term, we bounce back up, we go to about 120,000 or so. That might still, over a multi-month stretch, maybe even a year stretch, not be that high. But on the short term, it might be. Then again, once it crosses that level, maybe it's going to take some of the dominance back, as we're still quite early into it all. Then Ethereum goes for a run once it's back above the all-time high. So then it takes some dominance from Bitcoin, goes into Ethereum, as it takes from other alts. And only then do we really see the massive move for altcoins, or for example, coins like XRP really go towards the $17, whatever level, like the real crazy levels. As right now we're back to all-time high, sure. In terms of market cap for sure. In terms of price, we got quite close. But this is, by the way, not updated. Let me quickly update it right here. It's $2.35 here, but it went back to $2.60. And it's so funny that I keep saying, man, if you just religiously buy the dip, you usually are fine. But there's so much skepticism. There's so many people saying, Dusty, I'm too afraid to do that. And I keep looking at some of people's accounts, because again, guys, we are trading over on Bluefin. If you also want to join, link is down below. I keep looking at those accounts. Some people are afraid. Even though they only trade XRP, they only long it. And if you did that religiously since we started talking about it, by the way, you would have had, man, some people turn a couple tens of thousands into hundreds of thousands of dollars in just 2 or 3 weeks. And I still feel so sad about the one person who wasn't able to make millions. He would have, but his risk profile is just slightly bad. Anyway, to revert back to it, I keep saying, don't put your leverage up too high. You want to stick around for a long time. I know you want to take advantage of every single move, but make sure your leverage is not too high where you can take advantage of some dipping opportunities and you do not get liquidated. The worst thing that can happen is getting liquidated. You always want to stop yourself out before that happens. Anyway, right now, XRP back on another pump. As we're up, let's see, about 7% in 7 hours or so. And that's the fun thing. Back a little bit ago, when we went to 264 or whatever, I'd be screaming and streaming, going crazy. Right now, because we've seen the $2.90, XRP only starts getting really, really interesting again once we're above, I'm calling it 275 or something along those lines. To me, it's really interesting here, but I know that if I were to stream right now, people would still say, oh, but Dusty, it went to $2.90 some before. I'm still down so much. Should I sell? Should I be worried? And I can only say, well, guys, this is where I just get more and more bullish right now because the price didn't just flop back to zero. Back in time when the lawsuit was won, the price very quickly went to 96 cents, whatever like that, and fell back down. Back in 2021, it was up and right back down. This is the first time in many, many years, maybe like ever basically for XRP, that the price is able to sustain itself. And from that, this is the XLM one. And for that reason, let me quickly find the XRP one, the right one. For that reason, man, if this is able to hold throughout December, this is going to get so freaking wild. Then again, tonight is going to be our weekly close again. I'll talk about that a bit later probably, about what this weekly close will mean. As potentially, depending on where we're going to end this, it could be the highest weekly close for XRP ever, with that number being $2.75, or we're about 10 cents away. Last time though, the moment we went to 291, it also happened in a snap though, so it's going to be interesting to watch. We have hit all-time high in terms of market cap, but hey, anyway, this is what I'll be watching for. If you're wondering about the December prices, you've got my idea. I'm expecting if we're going to actually close above 275, that it's going to go pretty quickly, but I don't want to speculate too much. I just want to say general direction is upwards. December, Christmas, it's all interesting to think of, but over a prolonged period of time, it don't matter that much. Any target that people are putting up here is just wishful thinking. There is no TA, there's no real price prediction people can put in for a date so close. Again, you can put up a price expectation over a run, over a whole bull run, based on what is done previously. You can look at the XP price for December or for Christmas or end of the year based on what is done previously, but this time is so different than any other run we've had before. It's gone so differently to any other opportunity or any other time that I don't think it really makes sense. And I know people will say, Dusty, but you can do this. No, you cannot. Trust me when I say that nobody out there can guarantee whatever is going to happen. They can put up an educated guess, but it's either going to be based on previous cycles, based on technical analysis, or based on Bitcoin. And if there's anything else, then I don't know what hat they're pulling that from. So based on the previous cycles, like I said, this cycle is so different that it's quite hard to do on such a short time frame because the Christmas area, every single time has been different. Oh, but the lawsuit happened, right? So on which exact part will you base this if we're talking about Christmas? How was Bitcoin performing at the time? It's quite hard to put an educated guess up. technical analysis. If you're telling me that somebody can accurately predict where we're going to be by Christmas based on that right now for a coin this volatile, show me how many billions of dollars they got. Because again, it's a probability game. It could be that he's got a pretty good estimated guess. But if he really knew for sure, he wouldn't tell you, because he'd have at least a couple $2 billion right now. Because if I knew something that's certain, it's always most likely. Certainty, cannot happen. For example, the reason I don't go all in on XRP with every single dollar I've got with a 100x long is because you're quite sure it's going to go up. You're quite sure it's going to hit $10, $20 within a reasonable time frame, but it could be that it won't. It could be that Bitcoin right now gets a crazy announcement from the government. You say something, right? And all of a sudden the price dips a lot. You saw what happened in Korea, and all of a sudden you've lost all your money. Right? There was a very high chance we're going to get it, but there's a chance it won't. And the last one is based on Bitcoin. Well, like we just saw in Korea, a lot of things can happen, man. And that's why over a prolonged period of time, the run, I don't think it's going to deviate that much, but on the short term, we've seen that this time around, for example, this cycle, we saw an all-time high for Bitcoin earlier than we've ever seen. It could also be that this time around, like further in the cycle, we're going to see Bitcoin top out earlier than previous times because of the ETF pressure. But it could also be that this time around, we actually percentage-wise do quite similar to the previous cycle, even though last times, it was a very deteriorating result because of the ETFs and because of the biggest interesting crypto ever this cycle. And for that reason, I keep saying, maybe if you've got some price predictions or top signals, you're seeing them already, I keep saying maybe we have to up them significantly based on the idea that this is most likely going to be the biggest one. Anyway, guys, I can sit here talking about this for hours. I don't think I need to, though. Hopefully you got a good idea about where we're headed over the run. But if you don't know price-wise, I keep saying I don't think a $15, $20 XRP is that odd. Even a $20 is not that high. If we look back at it, if we look at what XRP has done versus Bitcoin in the past, right now it could still do a 7x, but let's just be conservative and say, you know what, it's going to 3x. You know what, let's say 4. A little bit on the high end, but let's just say 4x, so it's going to go to about $10. If Bitcoin then also triples from here to $300,000, that's about a 12x from XRP here, right? Or let's just say 9 to 12x. But even if we're conservative and say, about a 3x right here, and then also 3x because Bitcoin goes to 300,000, that's a 9x from where we're at. But if we're even more conservative, we say, you know what? A 2x for XRP versus Bitcoin, because that is, again, XRP relative to Bitcoin, means it's at $5. And then Bitcoin only doubles to 200,000. That's still a $10 XRP, and that could very well happen within just a few months. That's like very, very conservative to me, though. I personally expect it to go way higher, but that's just me. Guys, put that notification bell on. Hopefully, I'll see you guys in another crypto video very soon. There's a lot of cool stuff coming, man.